Welcome to episode 4 of My Worst Day. I'm the Serial Intellectual, and we do the worst days because we want to encourage people and inspire people and equip people. Because the reality is we all have days that are our worst day. Today, I have Earl Hooks with me, and I'm so excited. You guys are going to be blown away by his story and all the things that he's been able to do. Remember, we do this because we believe that it's easy for people to celebrate successes and to sell success. But the reality of it is everyday people like us, we have hard days. And I want you to meet people just like you who have overcome, are overcoming, and doing amazing things in spite of their worst days. So, welcome to the podcast, Earl. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're born and where you grew up.
Born and raised in San Jose, California, and I would say I was raised on the east side of San Jose, and now living and raising my kids on the west side of San
Nice. And when you're growing up, you are about fitness, and people are going to get to know that about you. Were you into fitness when you were young?
Jose. I wasn't. Okay, so I wasn't into fitness, but I was very athletic, and I played every sport. So
Ah,
my father always made me do push-ups before before I can go outside and play. So I had to do homework, and then my younger brother Eric and I would have to do push-ups, wall sits before we went out and played it outside. And he said, "You'll thank me later." So maybe that's where maybe that's where the little bug came from. But as far as working out with my team and the football, baseball teams that I was on, I was actually I was pretty lazy when it came to the workouts and the fitness part of it. But I love sports. I was always in one sport or another all year round. So my parents did keep me active, and yeah. So I would say I was athletic, but I wasn't into fitness.
yeah, and there's a difference, isn't there? We're going to get into that.
Yeah.
So, um, you know, a lot of people, when I ask them what their worst day was like, some people are like, "Well, which one?" And sometimes it's hard for people to actually kind of put that kind of into perspective. But there was something that moved you from being athletic into fitness. There were some things that happened in your life. So once you tell us about that, what was one or more? Maybe there's a couple catalysts that moved you from where you were to where you are now.
Um, so my worst day was probably the day that I realized I was an alcoholic,
Mm,
and there was nothing I could do to fix it. That
mm,
I felt in in that moment that I could do. I felt powerless. I was humbled, and I really wanted to give up. And it was March 6th, 2012, and I'll never forget that day. I had lost my family, so my wife wanted a divorce. My kids didn't respect me at that point. I went from this athletic young father to this overweight alcoholic father. And I compared myself to, you know, low versions that I saw on TV or social media. Like, at least I'm paying the bills as a father, so I'm doing a good job, and at least
right.
I'm sleeping under the same roof as my children. So I'm doing a great job there. I'm not this absent father. But really, that day, I realized that I was that absent father, and maybe it was worse being there
Mm,
in the state that I was, and I was doing more harm than I thought. So everything that I judged, every father that I judged, every alcoholic that I judged who just went to the store to buy one beer, like, why would you just buy one beer? Just get a six pack, or get multiple so you don't have to go back. I became that person.
Mm,
because in that moment I just wanted one drink real quick before I did this. So I was vulnerable, and I I was willing to do anything to get my family back. I really didn't care about getting myself back at that point, but my kids and my wife. And now looking back, I realize how much I valued them and how much they saved and helped me. So that was really what kept me hanging on and what gave me hope
mm.
just for that moment. So I had to keep capturing those moments.
So in that time, we've asked people too, like, what you have this sense where it's like, man, I've lost my wife, I've lost my kids, I feel so helpless and so powerless. Um, did you ever get to a point where, prior to, man, I'm willing to do anything it takes, did you ever get to a point of just like desperation where you're like, hey, I need to just leave, or what was like, when we're trying to describe this worst day, what were the worst parts about the worst day that you were going through? Was it the lack of not being with your family? Was it being out of the house? What was it?
Um, so it was imagining me being this father who just saw his kids on Saturday and Sunday.
Mm,
It was imagining me being this father who is unemployed, who doesn't have a driver's license to take them anywhere. Like
mm,
I started the fear set in, and realization that I'm this person now. Like I could lose my job. I'm on the way to losing my license.
mm,
I could be homeless. Now I'm picturing and imagining myself standing in front of the judge asking for visitation
mm,
and with my children, and I have nowhere to take them. And I'm not suitable. I'm not a suitable father, and I'd have these supervised visits.
mm.
So I everything that I created became a reality in that moment, because in that moment that's who I was, and that I finally was accepting it. But it wasn't just like one day I was here.
Right,
I made a series of choices, and I knew before I made those choices I was doing the wrong thing.
right.
And I always thought I could fix it later. I could
Mm,
fix it later. I could fix it later. And they
mm,
piled up.
mm,
And before I knew it, I couldn't carry that weight. I
mm.
couldn't hide it. All the stuff that piled up, I couldn't hide it. And everyone around me knew. The people that I thought who didn't know, I realized they did know. And it was lonely. It was lonely, and in a sense too, because I was kind of an isolated person. Um, I'm social, but I was private, and so I what I wanted to become as a father and a man, I didn't have that living example in front of me.
Mm.
So if I'm going to change right now and I'm going to get out of this, who do I look to? What's the picture that I'm looking at? What's the
Mm.
life that I'm imitating? That's living a living example right in front of me. And I couldn't see that. So I had to imagine that as well.
Right,
And it's I also, because people, when they're going through things like this, they don't talk about it.
right,
And when I don't know anyone in my family or friends, uncles, grandfathers who overcame alcoholism. No one
right,
talks about it. I didn't
right,
see it. No one, it's not, no one's saying, hey, I was rock bottom and then I did this. Where's the blueprint for what I want to do? You know,
right,
so um, so that inspired me to be that later. But
right.
while I was vulnerable, this really didn't give me hope because I'm like, what do I do now? How do I fix this?
Yeah, and there's two things that come to my mind. One is we talked about this before we jumped on this, the law of compound choices. You can see the law of compound choices working in my life and your life when we make bad decisions. But you started making good decisions and you are not even close to being the person you were. So the law of compound choices works both ways. And
Yes.
this idea of the blueprint and not talking about it, it's like we you're always going to find suffering and silence, right? You're just
Hmm.
always going to find that. And I'm just so grateful that you made your way out. So how did this all begin to change? What happened? What are the steps that happened? What happened for this thing to all begin to turn around and you begin to make different choices that led you to the life you are right now?
The first start was I had to be honest with myself. So
Mm,
in that on that day was honesty, right? All right, this is who you are, Earl, and own it. And then I had to wake up the next day and sit in it, live in it, be that. Like this is who you're still this person. You are
mm,
still this person. And after about 3 or 4 days of sleeping in my car, waking up with nowhere to go, getting off of work with nowhere to go, finding an empty parking lot so I can sleep in. Um, because I had to make the choice. My wife and 3 kids were going to leave the house, and I was going to stay in this, 3-bedroom house, or I was going to leave and leave my children comfortable, right? They didn't deserve for to be at their uncle's house or grandma's house or wherever.
right.
I caused enough pain, so I leave and I don't go to my parents' house. I don't go to a friend's house because I felt like people around me would probably enable me, would take my side, like, ah, you know what, you're good, man, and I didn't need that. I
Right.
didn't want that. And I think that was the best decision that I made
Mm,
because it helped me sleep in my car. It helped me stay vulnerable. It
mm,
helped me want to get better.
mm,
And I slowly started after about a week to realize that if I'm going to be something different and not, be this person that I am, then I just have to start like just today. Just
right.
today, I'm not going to drink and my wife's never going to know, but God's going to know.
Mm,
Someone is watching me. And at that point I had to believe that there was some accountability.
mm,
And before I tried to like push that out, like, no one sees this, or I'm gonna, do this and no one can see this, but they're gonna see all the good stuff that I do, right? If
mhm,
people are gonna see the good, then the bad is revealed as well. And once I got to that point where I had to be accountable, and someone was like, "Hey, Earl, how you doing today? Like, you gonna do what you said you're gonna do?" Um, I started to make better choices at work. I started to notice how much sharper I was at work within a week or two. I
mhm,
was already feeling thin, probably because I couldn't eat over stress, and I
mm,
wasn't drinking. So I felt a little more alive and a little more energy. And it started to slowly give me hope. Like now, I'm not going to be that person that I feared standing in front of the judge.
mm,
Now I'm going to turn it around. So when I do go in front of the judge or when I do see my kids finally, they're going to see a better version. And I
mm,
still wasn't committed to, I'm going to stop drinking forever, right?
mm,
This is just to get my family back because I'm still
mm,
the same Earl, right? I'm
mm,
still going to manipulate my way
mm.
to get in and then probably continue my old habits.
Right.
Um, but each day that I made a good choice, I gained strength.
Mm,
And each day that I did what I said I was going to do, I got stronger.
Mm,
And when I did things in private and didn't know, and no one needed to see it, I got stronger, right?
mm,
It was all inside, all inside. No one at work knew I was sleeping in my car. None of
mm,
my family members knew I was sleeping in my car. They didn't know I was, showering and at work, and and that only lasted about 2 weeks.
mhm,
And my wife had a little empathy on me because I'm the father, right?
mhm,
And she still believed in me. She
mm,
made a hard choice, and I forced her hand on that, and she gave me a million chances, but a million and one, it wasn't gonna be, it wasn't gonna happen. So she
mm,
allowed me to come in when they were asleep. You can take a shower, you can do your thing, you can get your clothes, we can get you some laundry, and then you're out. So
mhm.
uh, once I got to that level, I was like, oh, there's a little nugget in that. Like I'm making some progress. All those choices that I was making, it led me here. Now I'm at home taking a shower. Okay, I gotta leave. All right, let me make some more good choices tomorrow. So
Yeah,
baby steps. Baby steps gave me hope.
yeah. When you're making these choices and you're starting to see a little bit, it's growing, it's growing, growing. I'm sure because we're all human, there are days where you had setbacks, or even if you didn't have a setback, maybe things didn't go the way you wanted them to at work or at home or whatever. How did you deal with as you're making these good choices and they're starting to turn around, but there's a day or an hour or a few minutes where things don't go the way you want? How did you get through that during this phase?
Because I already know what it feels like to give up.
Mm.
Like clear as day. I know this is why I'm in the spot, right? Because I commit to something, and once it gets hard, I give up on it. Once I
Mm,
had a bad day before, I'm like, you know what? This is just how I was born. This is my life, or
mm,
my luck. Always, it was always about luck and bad luck. And
mm,
I now I don't believe in that. So when I was making these good choices and my life was progressing slowly, and I had those setback days where it felt like, oh man, she didn't even notice that I'm sober for a month. She's not even
mm,
acknowledging it.
mhm,
I thought to myself, Earl, okay, if you start drinking again, you go back to these bad choices, you're doing the same behavior that you did before, and you don't want to be that person.
right.
So, because I was sober, it was easy for me to have memory of the mistakes that I did, of the times where I gave up. So, a clear mind helped me get through those hard days.
Mhm,
So, my what I kept telling myself is, Earl, just be the opposite of who you were.
right.
And in my life, my alcoholism was a hard 7 years. So I wasn't drinking for 20 years and then came to this point, but it was a hard 7 years, and she still believed in the person I was prior to that.
Mm,
And I didn't know who that was because I'm only thinking like, about the last, year or so.
right.
And it's it once I started to make decisions the opposite of what the alcoholic Earl would do, would say, everything was better. It was easier. Like I
Mhm,
already know, okay, if if this Earl was going to be lazy, then this is how he ends up. This is the path he takes. You know what? Let's just do the hard today. Let's just
mm,
practice the hard. Let's do the opposite. Okay, how would I approach this? What's the first thing I would do? Okay, let's not do that. Let's do the opposite. And that's still how I approach everything. And now my coworkers, some of my coworkers, they hate me for it, right? And they're like, Earl, how do I do this? I'm like, okay, what's the hardest way to do it? And I'm like,
mhm,
That's probably the right way. What's the laziest way to do it, right? What's the easiest way? And that's
Yeah,
not 100% foolproof, but I mean, 99% of the time, and this is my life, right? It's so hard everywhere I go, alcohol everywhere. Every event, alcohol. Like I mean, friends, family members, everyone's drinking, right? I
mm,
feel so alone on this island. And people who are sober or go through sobriety, they don't really talk about it. So
right.
they could be amongst me, but they're not saying anything because they
Mm,
don't want to be that person, right? That's
mhm,
awkward at the party, right?
right.
So I'm gonna be that person. Like I'm doing the opposite of what I used to be. So now I'm very open about, and vulnerable, and I'm not so private anymore. Like
Right.
everything is out there because I'm being the opposite, and it's working. I got proof that it's working.
Yeah, I was thinking this morning about progressions in personal development and how, when you start off on this journey and you want to be more self-aware and you want to do relationships better and you want your personal skills to happen and your vocational effectiveness and the fulfillment in life, all the things you've experienced, you go through these progressions, these seasons where it rains, where it's cold, where it's snowy, where it's ice, where it's super hot. You face these obstacles, but the main three obstacles that you've described are the same three I thought about this morning, which are you, others, and your environment. And listening to you talk is hearing you face you and overcome you. Because I hear a lot of Earl, 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 Earl. Earl, you're talking to yourself, right? And
Yeah, yeah,
the most influential voice in our lives is the ones that no one hears but ourselves, right? It's self-talk. And then others. You can see you're going through that whole paradigm of others and then dealing with your environment. And so you're just working through, and it's encouraging. And I heard Alex Hormozy say, when you start this journey on personal development, whatever that is, you're going to be in the same place that everyone else has been on the journey. Like you it feels all alone, but like this is
yeah,
where everyone is at, right? We just don't talk
yeah,
about it. Like
yeah, yeah,
we all feel like, did they notice? We all feel like, is it worth it? And then we get up and we make the same choices. And sometimes it feels like you're not going anywhere. And then 3 days later, you go, wow, I can't believe I've done this for 3 days straight. It's amazing.
yeah, yeah,
And so you're working through this progression, and obviously things start to accumulate. Like the law of compound choices worked to bring you to sleeping in your car, almost losing your wife and kids. And now the law of compound choices are completely turning your life around. And to now you fast forward and you're sitting in a gym. Like, tell us
yeah.
about that.
Well, in short, I'm going next week. I will be celebrating 12 years of sobriety.
Mhm.
And I don't feel like it's an accident. I'm very strong on the fact that my choices have brought me here. I never imagined myself being in great shape again. I just accepted that I was supposed to be 240 pounds
Mhm.
and I'm supposed to be a little chubby because it's in my DNA. That
Mm.
was the excuse I was telling myself. And to be a gym owner and to have a family business where my whole my wife, my kids, all involved. I mean, my wife is really running the business, but it's our family business, and to be doing that and to still have my full-time job where I'm celebrating. I just celebrated 25 years, and that's unheard of these days to be
Mm.
employed by the same employer for 25. And I love my job, right?
Yeah.
And I don't see myself leaving that job, but the times are overlapping, right? So I'm finding a way to do both, and I I I started with just wanting to get my family back, and then when I felt like I was doing it, or it felt like I was just doing it so that my wife could notice me, when I realized her noticing me wasn't the end all. It wasn't the golden nugget, right?
Mm,
And my kids smiling at me and just playing with me, that wasn't what was needed. I needed something deeper than that. And
mm,
once I got past the part where I was just trying to show them that I was a better person, once I got in through the first 6 months and I was finally going to do it for myself, I
mm,
wanted to be a better person.
mm.
Like it was me seeing me, right? The integrity, like what I do in private. So
Right.
what I did in private mattered, and it was hard. It was hard because it was little things I couldn't cheat, I couldn't lie about, that before I had no problem, right? Because no one's gonna see this, and 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 I do that now with like my running streak. No one's gonna know if I don't run today, right?
Right.
But I do, right? And and God and this person that I said I was on my knees in tears begging, like, please just help me, snot bubbles. Please, I will be, I'll do anything, like anything. I will be a better person, I promise. And I remind myself of that all the time, like, Earl, you gotta keep this promise. And the longer I go, the more days that I stack these wins, the stronger I get. Like I'm
Mm,
not going back. Like
mm,
after year 10, I'm like, I'm never drinking again in my life. Like
mm,
and I'll get friends that tell me, oh, don't say never, like just, don't. I had someone tell me, don't celebrate too early.
mm,
And I almost listened to that. I was excited about my 10th year of sobriety, and I was going to a Lakers game with my kids, and we were flying out, just my kids. So imagine this: I'm going to celebrate my birthday, uh, and on March 5th, and then March 6th, or March 5th, I'm gonna be at the Lakers game. March 6th, I'm gonna celebrate my 10th year of sobriety, and my wife now trusts me to take my kids to Los Angeles, right? And and stay in a hotel, and be a protector, and a provider.
mm,
And I'm gonna pay for all. And I even took a kid from the neighborhood with us because he's
mm.
never been to a game. He's never been on an airplane, right? So
Wow.
I got all these things planned, and this person tells me don't celebrate too early. I'm like, whoa, I almost listened like I should be humbled and be like, okay, I might not make it. And I'm, a couple weeks away from this. I'm like, so now my thought, and that thought didn't last long. Um, Now my belief and my thought is you have to picture yourself winning. If you
Yes.
don't imagine yourself winning and you just think about losing all the time, you're gonna lose.
Yep.
And all the cliche quotes that I see and I've seen before, I was like, I live those now, right? One day at a time. I live those. Like I'm preaching those. Those are all over my social media because I believe them. And and so now it's like I I use that as like, and I try to teach others. I try not to spread that I feel like it's a negative way of thinking, right? And
Right.
when people say it to me, like, "Oh, don't celebrate too early," or I'd hear people saying it, I try to reverse that and go, you know what? Imagine yourself. What happens if you do win? What
Yeah.
happens if you do make it? Right? Then
Right.
what? Right? And I got on American Ninja Warrior, and I'm training and I'm training. I could be thinking like, what happens if I fall on my neck on national TV, right?
Right.
No, I didn't entertain that. Like, what
Right.
happens if I go up and I hit that buzzer and I win $1 million? Like,
Right.
I'm gonna open my own gym. I'm gonna buy my family a house. We're gonna buy a ranch. Like, and my days of training, what they talk about, like it's the journey, not the destination. My
Mhm.
days of training, imagining myself winning, were amazing. Like I was having fun. Like I was
Right.
training and I was hitting that buzzer. I was practicing my like celebration dance. I was like, ugh, my flag was like, I was imagining it, you know? And
Right.
by the time I got there to the destination, I already won. Like it was already a win because I had all year I was training and I did it already. Like
Mhm.
it's easy. So as I went through the process, like as you're doing the said thing, you already know how to enjoy it. When I
Yeah.
was at the Lakers game, it was probably that year the Lakers sucked. And LeBron went for like 55 points and it's like a game winner and it was a great game and we stayed in a nice hotel and yeah it was a great celebration. I got a nice purple coin that's had a 10 on it, and I took a great picture and dedicated that to my mother and I knew how to act and I knew how to embrace and celebrate the win while it was happening because I
Yeah.
practiced being there, right?
Yeah.
So,
That's so
yeah.
amazing. You there's so many nuggets in the things you have been saying, and they're so encouraging. Um, I remember when you first started Hooks on Fitness, and you were outside, and we were talking about it before the podcast about sun, rain, cold, and now you have a gym. And I remember one time I came up to visit your mom, and I had a little time before my flight. I came over and I sat in the stands and I watched you training these kids and families and just running and all this stuff. And I'm like, this kid is serious, man. He's serious. And some of my whole journey, my athletic journey, and you have been such an inspiration to me. And as I told you before the podcast, every day when I think about not doing something, I always think about just, I bet he ran today. You know, Tell us how many
Yeah.
days you have ran consecutively. How many days have you ran consecutively?
Let me check my app because I'm keeping myself accountable.
This is
So,
when you know you're in trouble, listeners, when he has to check his app because it's not
yeah,
like, oh, I've got 3 weeks or 2 months. I've been doing this for 6 months, once a week. No,
yeah,
when you check this
no.
number, you're gonna be like, what?
2379. Yeah, that's what we're at. And you know what the cool thing is? Like I believe in all these things lining up and little when you're looking for motivation and you're looking for nuggets, you're gonna find them, right? So I'm gonna I'm like, this is the Kobe year, 2024, right? I love Kobe. I love Mamba mentality where you're just trying to get better every day. I
Right,
didn't know I was doing that when I first started, but that's what I was doing. And you talk about hooked on fitness being outdoors in the rain, in the cold. I didn't know it was going to work. I had some days where I'm like, there's two people here. Like,
right,
what are we doing? And when I started, I was doing it for free. And
right,
when people get stuff for free, sometimes they don't show up. It's like,
right,
I'll come to the next one. So, and then when the time you came, I think I was charging $10 a month. Ten
right.
dollars a month for, and I was giving them the work.
Oh, it was
So
work. I was like, I ain't signing up. You have to pay to be in that
yeah.
joint.
Yeah. And I'm like just getting off of work and hitting it hard. But I will so my birthday's coming up March 5th and I feel like I'm gonna have a great year because I'm banking it off of it being 2024, right?
Mhm.
And I started 2012 and my favorite number is 12. So I'm like,
Mm,
dang, I started on like my favorite year, right? What it's like working out perfectly. And I'll be, 2024, my Kobe year, my Mamba year, I'll be celebrating my 12th year of sobriety the day after my birthday. And I'm like,
mm,
dang, this is so cool. 12 times 2 is 24. And some people will be like, that's crazy, but it works for me, right?
yeah,
I'm excited to get there. And then when the day after, so March 6th is my sobriety date. March 7th, I will be on day 2,400 of my running streak, 2,400 days. Like, I, I got 3 days to celebrate, like three monumental days, and I post all this stuff on social media, and they probably think I celebrate every day, because it feels like that. Like once a month, I'm celebrating something, right? It's like day 2250, or when it was day 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm like, oh, my OCD, I like that, right? And it's
Yeah.
just whatever you're looking for, you will find. And I'm always looking for that like silver lining, that little small piece of motivation. So I'm excited to get around those days. And I didn't, I had dark moments where I hated my birthday
Mm,
because it reminded me of the last time that I drank.
mm,
And even when I got sober, I hated my birthday because it reminded me of my mom
mm,
and my mother not being with me anymore. And she
mm.
called me up every time on my birthday and sing happy birthday to me, like the whole song. Like
Yeah.
couldn't stop her. Like, hey
Yeah.
mom, okay, I'm at work. And she's just the whole song.
We all remember that.
Yeah. So it's so now I'm like, wow, man, I'm in a place where I'm actually gonna be celebrating.
Mhm.
I'm actually in a place where I'm happy about it coming and I don't feel dark about it. And it took years and it took practice and I had to imagine it. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
And now you're in a space where you have this gym and you have such a passion and a heart for health being accessible, people being able to get to things that help them to be healthy, and to be able to work out and to eat good and all those types of things. And talk about that passion of yours. I mean, you're coming from a guy who was sleeping in his car to now you're still working 25 years, 2,379 days straight of running, 12 years of sobriety. You own a gym, and now your passion is to pass these things on to other people, and particularly the youth. Talk about that passion and what you're doing.
so one of the things that I mentioned before is I I felt like I needed to see an example of the man or father that I wanted to be. And not on TV, not on screen, not from a distance, but like living. Like I want to see it live. So I I put it on myself to be that.
Mm,
And it was hard to say that to people. It was hard to commit to that because again, now in private, I'm holding myself accountable. So
right.
whatever I say to myself, then I have to do it.
Yeah.
And so from how I talk to people, the language that I use, how I handle my anger, how I handle my dark days, my intentions with people, and my integrity, like and how I treat my wife, how I treat my kids, how I show up for neighbors, all that I want to be a living example to younger people or even people my age when they
Mm,
do want to turn their life around, when they find themselves where I was, there's an example. They're like, oh, Earl's sober and he's at Disneyland with his family. He looks like he's having fun. Earl's
yeah.
living a fun, productive life, right?
Mm,
Earl is in great shape and Earl's still finding a way to work full time and go to the movies with his family. Like it's possible. You can still have fun and a great time and you can eliminate this part of your life, and you can lose a parent and you can still find ways to honor that parent or that person and and use that as fuel, use that as power, and
mhm,
use that as your secret weapon. and
yeah.
and so my gym and what we're doing here, we it's more of a community center, and that's the goal that we're shooting for.
Mm,
It's a place where kids will call us and they're just like, "Is are you doing any classes, Coach Hooks?" I'm like, "No." "Okay, can I come over and just shoot some hoops?" So we got a basketball hoop back there,
mhm,
and I'll have kids here at 8, 9 o'clock at night because they don't want to be home
mhm,
and they just don't have anywhere to go.
mhm,
So there's food here, there's a restroom, there's hoops, there's music, there's a TV, and I want to make that where the kids have a hub and the kids don't pay a membership to come here. The kids
mm,
in the neighborhood, Kayla's friends, it's their gym. It's an open gym for them. All Kayla's friends, like it's just open for them to come in a space because it costs me nothing, right?
mm.
And this is also my opportunity to be an example in front of them, how I
Yep.
carry myself, right? I have this space, I created this space, and I have this gym, but you know what? I'm gonna hook you up. I'm gonna
Mm,
take care of you.
mm,
What do you need? You want to order some pizza? So, with the adults that come through here, I want them to also feel like this is their home, this is their hub, and not where financially they have to sacrifice what's in their household and what they do, where it just makes it easy, right? When we first started, we did it for free, and then my thought was, okay, I'm going to charge them a cup of coffee, right? And now it's still to the point where you look at any gym in San Jose, and we will be the most affordable.
right.
And we're also offering help. Like if you come to me and you say, "Hey, I really can't afford all four of these classes. Like, how can I?" We got you. We got you
Mm,
because it's spreading that,
mm,
and you're teaching them, that person, and others around. Like it's okay. We all got to be. If you win, I win. We
mm,
win,
mm,
right? That's kind of how we're approaching it. We
mm,
all win,
mm.
and that's not how society is today. We're
Right.
all in competition, right? My gym against that gym,
Mm,
or this trainer against that trainer, or this coach against that coach, or this car is better than this car. This parent is more involved than this parent. Like, let's just work together and all the parents come together and we celebrate all the kids, you know? It's
mm,
his birthday, then we all celebrate his, you know, like, and it's not outdoing each other. It's so again, I don't the old me talked about it a lot.
mm,
And now I want to be more about action. So
mm,
I do the action first and then I talk about it. I
mm,
do the run streak first and then I talk about it.
mm,
So I never told anybody, I'm going to go get sober. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that for my new lifestyle. The old Earl, I told everybody everything I was going to do. And I only did half of it, right? And I
mm,
quit on
mm,
most
mm.
of it. So, um, yeah, and you know, my wife, she's been my counselor. She's been my therapist. She's been uh, the one who has helped me the most because she gives it to me real, raw, authentic, and I trust her. And
Mm,
I ask her all the time, like, why did you give me another chance? Like,
mm,
I'm so thankful to be here and the man that I am today. Like, why? I hated who I was. Like, why
mm,
did you? Who? So I believed in you. I believed you can be this person.
mm,
And at first, I didn't understand that. Now I get it.
mm.
And now I realize I have to believe in people. I have to believe in myself. And that's where it starts, right? That's where it started for her. She had to believe in me.
Yep.
And I was given that opportunity to be something different, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so and then this gym, you know, I I was reluctant in the beginning to really open it up and invite people and say, "Hey, I got a gym, come on in," because I was afraid it was going to fail. I was afraid no one would come, and I was afraid I'd have to say I'm an owner, and then a couple months later go, oh, I'm not an owner. We're back at the park.
Right.
But you you got to believe first, and once you make that leap, like I'm giving this 100%, just like I give my sobriety, and people see me hashtag all the time, no days off. That has
Mm,
nothing to do with fitness. It
right.
has everything to do with being a better person, right? That's really what
Uh,
I'm saying. Like, no days off from being a better person. No
mm,
days off from the running streak. Yes. No days off from sobriety, right? I can't take a break from my sobriety. Like, I
mhm.
can't just say, okay, no, today I'm not doing it. Like, it's not in my cards already. I've already made my choices, and now it's about every day being better.
Yep. That's awesome. Let me get you out of here on this. So there's somebody out there who's going to listen to this, and right now they're going through their worst day. Like right now, it's happening for them right now. What would you like to say to them?
I would say the first thing is to be honest with yourself. Um, really sit in that and keep a good memory of where you're at. And as long as you can remember how that feels, make a promise to yourself to never go back and make choices that are going to stack as wins, that'll give you proof that you don't need to be there, that
Mm,
the next level is where you should be. And we need that proof. We need proof, we need evidence, we need the receipts that this new lifestyle is going to work.
mm,
And it's all about having a clear mind that'll give you the memory to keep those receipts.
mm,
And one thing that has helped and that I would encourage people to do is write it down. Write
mm.
it down. If you don't feel comfortable, having it on paper, put it in your phone. I've learned that writing it down, it sticks in your mind a little better. Right? I
Yep.
tried the phone and it didn't work for me. The phone, I try to be digital because of privacy, but writing it freed me,
Mm,
and it allowed me to be vulnerable.
mhm.
And it's something about writing out the words and then going through the day and checking off, okay, I said I was going to do this. Did I do that? Oh, no. Okay, I didn't do this. I'm going to move this to this day. And then you start to slowly hold yourself accountable.
Mm,
So that memory, writing it down helps keep those receipts, stack those wins, and that that darkness does not, that pain doesn't last forever.
mm.
It feels like it does, but as long as you're stacking those wins and you look back, you're going to have more good days than bad days.
Yeah.
And and that's and that'll be your proof. and
Yeah.
and then that's how you'll. And we think we're alone, like you said, but everything that we're going through, everything we're facing, someone has wrote a book about it.
Yep.
Like, someone has, maybe not someone in front of you, but we have it at our fingertips to research how
Yep.
to get out of these things, and just do the work to research and find someone who's been going through the same thing as you and how they did it. And a lot of the things that I found were Bruce Lee teachings, uh, his philosophy on training
Mhm.
and on Zen and calming the mind and
Mhm.
patience. Kobe Bryant's work ethic. These were like motivational things that I found that were just things that I did during my homework and my research. And of course, my uncle. My uncle has been you, of course, have been have been it's like this constant where I think back to the days where I would text or call you and I was hungover and you didn't judge me and you gave it to me raw, real, but a way that I could digest where you
Mm,
didn't scare me off.
mhm.
And I there was a lot of me that wanted to turn that around and make you proud because you knew who I was and where I was and the work and the prayer that you did for me in private when I didn't know about.
Right.
So um, that when I finally realized that I do have someone, I do have an example. And if you're looking for it, right, you'll find it. You
Yep.
keep telling yourself you don't, right? So I went searching and I'm like, wait, he's right here. So every race that I finished, like these wins that I would stack, I text you, right?
Yep.
Like
Yep.
I send you like a little selfie, like,
Yep.
hey, we made it,
Yep. Yep.
50K. Hey, I'm
Yep.
on Ninja Warrior, I'm on next, like
Yep.
this is so you have someone around you like that. You have to find them. You
Yeah.
have to find them. And they
And it's
probably
somebody, yeah, and I appreciate that. And the thing is, what's so there's so many things inspiring about your story, but like one of the most inspiring things is like, we look for things and then it's you are like, well, then why don't I just be what I'm looking for? you know, like you're
yeah,
longing to be around people like this. Why don't you become that person?
yeah,
We never think about it. It's like if I only had this person, if I only had a person who could motivate me, if I only had this, why don't you become that person? And you've
yeah,
become that person that you long for. And now you're that person for other people. But more importantly, you're that person for you. We can hear it. When you talk,
yeah,
you are that guy. You ha- you
yeah,
have you have mastered what arguably the number one thing you have to master if you're going to experience any sort of personal development, and that is yourself. Because our primary obstacles to any type of personal development, whether it's self awareness or relationships or whatever it is inside of us. It's in here,
yeah,
in here,
yeah,
in
yeah.
here.
I
And if
agree.
you can
Yeah,
master this by the law of compound choices, little bitty choices, and if you can get rid of, the great thing about it is you've texted me days where it's raining, you text me days where it's windy, you text me it's days where you're like, not feeling it today, Unc, but I got my 3 miles in. The thing about it is, you and I have talked about before, is the thing about choices, you don't have to feel it. You just have to make the choice.
yeah,
Like you don't
yeah,
have to feel it. It's nice to feel it, but you
yeah,
can just do it without feelings. Like I can literally go to the pool and swim a mile and not want to, but still
yeah,
do it. Right?
yeah. And then it's
I
done.
can
You're
walk
like,
3 miles and not want to do it. I can go to the
yeah,
gym and look. I can read. I can make a podcast and be like, well, I don't really want to make the podcast, right? And all the
yeah,
things you've done in your life, this law of compound choices is really stacking up those wins and stacking up those wins. It's like planting a seed, watering it, growing it, and watching it grow. And
yeah,
anyway, if somebody's watching this, because someone's going to watch this, and they're going to get hope from this, and they see your story and they say, you know what, I want to talk to you. What's the best way for them to get in touch with you? Email? You have a social media handle you want to give out or something like that? What's the best way?
Uh, email is probably the first method I would give out. Hooked on Fitness, HOOKD on fitness at gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook. My Facebook is public, so you can go through and scan through all my posts, my pictures, and get to know me that way. Earl Hooks. My Instagram is Hooked on Fitness, and from there, ask me any questions. And I love to give little nuggets and help about sobriety, fitness. I'll give you some free tips on workouts. And if you want to come check the gym out, then we'll make that happen too.
That's awesome. Well, I've got it. It's no longer on my bucket list because bucket lists are like, to your point, bucket lists are like, I hope it happens. It's
Yeah.
not on my bucket list. It's on my list. I got to come visit the gym and see what's happening. It reminds me of something I wrote in Metamorphic Dictus. Inspiration is all around us. If we just open our eyes, we'll see it and experience it, and it will move us. And you are truly inspirational, Earl. So thanks for being on the podcast. And I hope all of you have experienced why we do this, why we do My Worst Day, to encourage you. You are not alone. There is hope, there is encouragement, and there are practical things you can do to take your worst day and turn it into something good. Grace and peace.